Ozzy Osbourne hated grocery stores. The fluorescent lights hurt his eyes. The crowds made him anxious. The endless choices overwhelmed him. But Sharon had sent him out with a simple list: milk, eggs, and her favorite British tea biscuits. "Just put on sunglasses and a jacket," she'd said. "Nobody will recognize you." She was wrong, of course. Someone always did. But on this Tuesday afternoon in Beverly Hills, walking through the automatic doors of Whole Foods, Ozzy wasn't thinking about fame or recognition. He was thinking about the phone call he'd received that morning from his therapist. "You seem lost, Ozzy," Dr. Martinez had said. "After 50 years in music, what's your purpose now?" The question had haunted him all day. What was the point of being Ozzy Osbourne when you weren't on stage? What did the Prince of Darkness do when the lights went down? He was about to find out. Ozzy grabbed a small cart and shuffled through the produce section, his black leather jacket drawing a few curious glances. He found Sharon's tea biscuits easily, imported from England, overpriced, but worth it for her smile. As he headed toward the dairy section, he heard something that made him stop. A woman's voice, shaky and desperate. "Can you please remove the vegetables? And maybe the bread too?" Ozzy looked over and saw her, a young Latina woman standing at checkout counter 3, her shoulders trembling as she tried to remove items from her order. Two small children clung to her sides, watching their mother's humiliation with wide, confused eyes. The cashier, a kind-looking young man, was trying to help discreetly, but the damage was done. Other shoppers were staring, some with pity, others with annoyance at the delay. Ozzy had seen this look before. Not in grocery stores, but in his own mirror during the darkest days of his addiction. The look of someone drowning in public, trying desperately to maintain dignity while everything fell apart. He abandoned his cart and moved closer, pretending to examine the magazine rack near the checkout lanes. He could hear every word. "I'm sorry, sir," the woman whispered to the cashier. "I thought I had enough, but I miscounted. Can you take off the eggs too?" The little girl tugged at her mother's shirt. "Mommy, why can't we get the Lucky Charms? You promised." "Not today, mija. Maybe next time." But Ozzy could see in the woman's eyes that there might not be a next time. This wasn't about wanting Lucky Charms. This was about survival. For 50 years, Ozzy had been asking himself what his purpose was. In that moment, watching a mother choose between milk and bread while her children watched, he finally understood. Ozzy walked directly to the checkout counter. The woman looked up, probably wondering why another shopper was getting so close to her personal crisis. Behind his dark sunglasses, Ozzy studied her face. Young, maybe late 20s, exhausted but trying to stay strong for her kids. "Tyler," Ozzy said quietly to the cashier, reading his name tag. His distinctive English accent caused several heads to turn. The cashier's eyes went wide with recognition, but Ozzy held up a finger, silently asking for discretion. "Ring everything back up," Ozzy said softly. "Everything she took off, and add whatever else she needs." The woman stared at him, confused. "I'm sorry, who are you?" Instead of answering, Ozzy knelt down to the little girl's eye level. "What's your name, love?" "Emma," she whispered. "Emma, what kind of cereal do you like?" "Lucky Charms, but Mommy says we can't afford—" "Tyler," Ozzy interrupted gently, "add the biggest box of Lucky Charms you have, and some chocolate milk." "Kids need chocolate milk." The mother started crying, not the quiet tears of embarrassment, but the overwhelming sobs of someone who hadn't experienced kindness in so long they'd forgotten what it felt like. "I can't let you do this," she managed between tears. "I don't even know who you are." Ozzy stood up and removed his sunglasses for the first time since entering the store. His famous face was now visible, weathered, kind, instantly recognizable. "I'm Ozzy," he said simply, "and 20 years ago I was broke, addicted, and didn't know where my next meal was coming from. Different circumstances, same desperation." The woman's jaw dropped. Half the people in line had their phones out now, but Ozzy didn't care. "The only difference between you and me," he continued, "is that I got lucky. Had people who helped me when I couldn't help myself. Now it's my turn to pass it forward." As Tyler rang up the groceries, now including fresh fruit, proper bread, real butter, and yes, the biggest box of Lucky Charms in the store, Ozzy thought about his therapist's question. What was his purpose? It wasn't just the music. It wasn't just the fame. It was this, using his position to see people who felt invisible, to help in moments when help mattered most. The total is $127.48, Tyler announced. Ozzy handed over his card without hesitation. As the receipt printed, he turned to the woman. "What's your name?" "Maria," she whispered. "Maria Rodriguez." "Maria, I want you to promise me something," Ozzy said seriously. "When you can, maybe not today, maybe not this year, but when you can, you help someone else who's standing where you are right now. That's how kindness works. It moves forward." Maria nodded, still crying, still overwhelmed. "Can I hug you?" she asked suddenly. Ozzy smiled, the first genuine smile he'd felt in months. "Course you can, love." As Maria embraced him, Ozzy felt something shift inside his chest. For the first time in years, he felt useful. Not as a performer, not as a celebrity, but as a human being. Little Emma tugged at his leather jacket. "Mr. Ozzy, are you famous?" "I used to be," Ozzy said, winking at her. "But today I'm just someone who wanted to help your mom." After helping Maria load her groceries into her beat-up Honda Civic, Ozzy sat in his own car for 20 minutes, processing what had just happened. His phone buzzed with texts. The grocery store incident was already on social media. Videos were being posted. # Ozzy Kindness was starting to trend. But for once, Ozzy didn't care about the publicity. He called Dr. Martinez. "Doc, I figured it out," he said when the therapist answered. "Figured what out?" "My purpose. It's not about the stage anymore. It's about the moments when nobody's watching, when someone needs help and you're in a position to give it." Dr. Martinez was quiet for a moment. "What brought this on?" Ozzy told him about Maria, about her children, about the look in her eyes when she realized someone cared enough to notice her struggle. "I've spent 50 years being the Prince of Darkness," Ozzy said. "Maybe it's time I tried being the Prince of Light instead." That evening, Ozzy couldn't stop thinking about Maria and her children. He wondered how many people like her he'd walked past in his lifetime, too busy or self-absorbed to notice their quiet desperation. He made a decision. The next morning, Ozzy called his manager. "I want to set up a foundation," he said, "for families like Maria's, single parents who are working hard but still can't make ends meet." "That's a big commitment, Ozzy." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Within weeks, the Osborne Family Foundation was established. Ozzy didn't just write checks. He showed up. He visited food banks, homeless shelters, and community centers. Always quietly, usually without cameras. But it started with Maria. She became the first recipient of the foundation's Dignity Fund, a program that helps struggling parents with groceries, rent, and other basic needs without bureaucracy or judgment. "Why are you doing this?" Maria asked when Ozzy visited her small apartment to check on her family. "Because everyone deserves Lucky Charms," he said, watching Emma pour a bowl of the colorful cereal. "But more than that, everyone deserves to feel seen." 3 years later, Ozzy was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the 3rd time. But in his acceptance speech, he didn't talk about his music. He talked about Maria. "I spent most of my career trying to be larger than life," he told the audience of music industry luminaries. "But the most important thing I ever did happened in a grocery store in Beverly Hills when I met a woman who taught me that real power isn't about how loud you can scream. It's about how quietly you can help." The audience gave him a standing ovation, but Ozzy was looking at the back of the room, where Maria sat with Emma and Carlos, now 11 and 7. Maria had finished nursing school, thanks to a scholarship from the foundation. Emma was getting straight A's and still loved Lucky Charms. After the ceremony, Emma ran up to Ozzy backstage. "Mr. Ozzy," she said, "I wrote you a song." She handed him a piece of paper with crayon lyrics. "Thank you for seeing my mommy when she was invisible. Thank you for the Lucky Charms, but mostly for the miracle." Ozzy read it twice, his eyes filling with tears. "It's perfect, love," he said, hugging her tight. "Because sometimes the greatest songs aren't written for stadiums. Sometimes they're written by 11-year-old girls who remember the day a rock star taught them that kindness was the loudest music of all." Today, Ozzy Osbourne still performs. He still screams on stage and drives crowds wild. But his real work happens in the quiet moments, in grocery stores and food banks, in homeless shelters and community centers. He learned that fame could be a spotlight, but kindness could be a flashlight, illuminating the dark corners where people struggled alone. The Prince of Darkness had found his light, and it all started with a single mother, 2 hungry children, and a box of Lucky Charms. "I used to bite the heads off bats to shock people," Ozzy said in a recent interview. "Now I'd rather feed a hungry kid to heal them. Turns out healing makes a lot more noise than screaming ever did." The Osborne Family Foundation has now helped over 10,000 families. It started with $127.48 at a Beverly Hills grocery store. Because sometimes the smallest gestures create the biggest revolutions. And sometimes the Prince of Darkness discovers he was meant to be the Prince of Light all along.